Hello YouTube, my name is Nero and welcome to another Overwatch Hero Spotlight and Quick Tips video. Today we'll be covering Winston, a super intelligent, genetically engineered gorilla who is one of the most iconic characters in Overwatch. Winston is a tank hero, although he can be one of the most offensive tanks in all of Overwatch. Let's start by taking a look at his kit. Winston's weapon of choice is going to be the Tesla Cannon. This weapon fires electricity in a cone in front of Winston, and it will do so until Winston releases the trigger. It's an automatic weapon. Calculating the damage on the Tesla Cannon is somewhat difficult, but assuming you're constantly hitting your target, it will do about 60 damage per second. Note that the Tesla Cannon does not require perfect aim, but rather you can just aim near the target and hit them, and it can also hit multiple targets at the same time. It's one of the best weapons in the game for new players because it does not require precise aim. Its electricity also ignores some barriers in the game, such as Reinhardt's shield, or if the other team happens to have a Winston, it will also go through that Winston's barrier projector. The Tesla Cannon does not require precise aiming, but the range is rather low, so always try to keep your opponents as close to you as humanly possible. Next up, let's talk about Winston's jump pack. This is an ability that allows Winston to jump a great distance, with the height and the direction of the jump determining exactly where he is going to go. It can take some getting used to before you're super comfortable using Winston's jump pack, knowing exactly where you can and cannot get to from any given spot, but once you have that down, you will be a master Winston in no time. Note that enemies that are directly next to you when you take off will be slightly knocked back, and when you land, you will deal up to 50 damage to all enemies in a small area depending on their proximity to you, as well as again knocking them back. Jump pack has a 6-second cooldown, so use it often and use it well. Earlier I mentioned Winston's barrier projector, so let's cover that one next. This is a little device that Winston throws down and it will put up a barrier. This barrier has 600 hit points, therefore will absorb up to 600 damage, serving as a wall for your teammates that are behind it, as well as a bubble shield for your teammates that are inside of it. It lasts for 6 seconds or until it takes 600 damage, whichever comes first. Note that enemies can just walk right through the barrier projector and shoot you while you're inside of there, but they cannot shoot from inside the bubble and hit people that are outside the bubble, as they will be hitting the shield. Barrier projector has a cooldown of 13 seconds, so you really need to pick your spots for this thing, and note that if you use it while leaping using Winston's jump pack, it will automatically drop to the ground from whenever you pressed it, as it does not carry your momentum. Similar to Reinhardt's shield, Winston's barrier does not protect against Winston weapons or Symmetra weapons, Reinhardt's fire strike, or melee attacks. Next up, let's talk about Winston's ultimate, Primal Rage. When activated, Winston's Primal Rage will take over, as he is a gorilla, and will turn him into a hulking beast. He is instantly given 1,000 hit points, with 900 of his hit points being health and 100 of it being armor. Note that he is given this health and armor regardless of what his health was when he activated his ultimate, so if you're knocking on death's door and only have like 100 health left, it's good to use Winston's ultimate as a massive heal. Primal Rage will make it so Winston no longer uses his Tesla Cannon, but rather he runs around with his fists. His melee attacks only do 40 damage, but they do 40 damage in an area of effect, so he'll be hitting basically every person in front of him while also knocking them back. This is great for knocking players off of objectives, or punching enemies into teammates, or simply just disrupting objectives and causing chaos. During Primal Rage, Winston's jump pack cooldown is reduced to 2 seconds, which allows Winston to use that ability a ton. Primal Rage will last for 10 seconds, and as a side note, you do move slightly faster while Primal Rage is activated. With his abilities out of the way, let's go ahead and cover the quick tips for playing Winston effectively. Tip number 1, jump pack does not require a platform for you to jump off of. I think a lot of people, myself included, when they first start playing Winston, will think to themselves, when he's using his jump, he's just jumping because he's a gorilla, right? Maybe he can jump super far for whatever reason. He's genetically engineered, maybe he can just jump farther. It's actually a jump pack that is allowing him to jump, and since it's a pack providing the jump and not his feet, you can jump from anywhere. This is great if you happen to get knocked off the map, because you can just simply jump right back up. Quick tip number 2, Winston is an amazing harasser in Overwatch. He is great for diving into the enemy backline and taking out snipers such as Widowmaker or Hanzo, as well as healers like Mercy. Fast heroes like Tracer, Genji, and Lucio are no match for Winston, as he can just follow them around, constantly damaging them with his Tesla Cannon. This is why I said earlier that he is one of the best offensive tanks in the game, because he has insane mobility because of his jump pack, and is great for taking out snipers and healers. Quick tip number 3, Winston's barrier projector is actually a little device and can be placed on moving objects and will move with that object. Just a small tip, but I wanted to make you guys aware of that. Quick tip number 4, utilize Primal Rage. If you're about to die, activate activate his Primal Rage to instantly be given 1000 hit points. Use it on objectives, and especially ones that feature areas that you can knock your opponents off of the map. Quick tip number 5, know your counters. While Winston is great against snipers, healers, Genji, Tracer, and others, he has a tough time against certain heroes as well. There's definitely a lot of checks and balances in the game of Overwatch. Reaper, for example, dominates Winston. If you're having trouble up against the Winston, use Reaper because he's amazing, because he does such fast and strong damage with his shotguns as compared to Winston, who just has that Tesla cannon, which is going to slowly eat at Reaper. Reaper is a very good counter to Winston. Bastion is another hard counter to Winston because he can do such good damage before Winston can even get near him, and even if Winston does get up there and starts hitting him with his weapon, Bastion does so much more damage so much more quickly than Winston can that he'll typically melt the Winston. Mei, for example, is another great counter to Winston because if you want to get close to Mei, she's going to freeze you, so how's Winston supposed to be able to deal with that? Pharah's pretty good because she can usually be really far away and constantly flying around, and while you can jump, you typically can't fly, so you're not going to be able to keep up with a Pharah most of the time. Zarya is also really good at dealing with Winston. Every hero in Overwatch is good against certain heroes but bad against others. It's constantly a game of checks and balances, and of course Winston is not without his counters. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude my Winston hero spotlight and quick tips video. Winston is a great hero for players who are new to Overwatch as well as experienced players. His weapon doesn't require much aim, but his jump pack certainly does, and overall a good Winston can be a real problem for the other team if they do not have an answer for him. I personally love playing as Winston. He helped me get into the swing of things when I first started playing Overwatch back in the beta, and I'm still playing as him today because he counters heroes that I personally hate dying to, like Genji, Hanzo, and Widowmaker. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I hope you guys all found it helpful and informative. If you did, please drop me a rating. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.